I had a thought while I was setting this whole thing up that I should really just use those hoodies back there, like the Venom hoodie and the League of Legends hoodies and stuff, as a background. Just like hang them up behind me. That would be probably better. That way you don't see the crumpled sheets of the bed and the pizza box back there. Whatever. Um, Welcome to the postseason breakdown. Oh, hang on. I'm going to make this a little smaller. There we go. That way you can see everything. Okay. This is the postseason breakdown for 3D Speed. We've wrapped up our season on Wednesday at Suzuka. I just did the stewarding with Jack. There was but a single penalty, and the report is down below. No video this time because the only penalty was a start gap thing. There were no reports. Lap 1 was clean. Actually, very clean. The closest thing to anything really was there was some side-by-side contact between Johnston and Baker at Casio Triangle, which we just declared as a racing incident. And there was an off at the hairpin, but it was self-inflicted. Or one of those cases where netcode got in the way, because it was a moment where the car that went off reacted as if it had been hit to the rear, but there is no contact on the replay. So it's one of those things that it's kind of hard to penalize someone for a contact we can't see. And there were 2 cars that might have been responsible for it. So that's additional problems. And that was really it. We had no reports, and that makes it the lightest penalty race of the season. Penalties were a bit high this season, but I think it was largely because we did have a lot of new people that maybe don't have the same comfort level with the rest of the grid. Obviously, the more you race together, the cleaner it gets, just because you start to be able to predict what other people are going to do. You can avoid their fumbles. They can avoid yours. And it just kind of tightens things up and cleans it up like they're... I'll leave it at that. Credit, though, to Ayrton Arsenault, who got to the suspended ban part and got through the season without taking any more penalties. Very nice. Good work. And that's really all there is on the stewarding front, to be honest. Anyways, so here's the feedback form for next season. You guys want to get started really early, so hopefully we get this form filled out really quickly and we can do our thing. So I'm going to fill it out here, just like I did last season. Show you my answers so that, if everything that I pick ends up happening, you guys can accuse me of terrible manipulation of data. And hopefully you guys don't veto the track I really want on, because last season I said I wanted Hungaroring on the calendar, and it got, for a track that historically people have not been particularly anti, it got a lot of vetoes. But anyways, form is a lot the same as last season, but there's some new stuff. So let's get going here. So obviously Michael Magus. I'm racing the Audi this season. There's no way around it. Last season I was very open. Historically I've been very, very open, but there's no Audis. We had no Audis on the grid. That was insanity. So I'm going there. If anyone wants to join me, let me know. We'll form up a team because we've got the why is my brain not working right now? We got the WRT, we got the Santa Lock, we got the Attempto stuff. I would personally vote for WRT, but the other ones all have some appeal, so, whatever you want to do. Tracks. So I'm voting for Hungaroring again, because I do like it. Misano was not on the calendar last season. I'd like to see it make an appearance. Generally not going to vote for anything that was on the calendar last season, I don't think. Or I might have to, because a lot of these are kind of long. Or I just don't really like them. Put one out for Zolder. Don't really like Zolder, but it produces some good racing. So I do kind of like it in that regard. This is actually really, really hard for me. I guess Barcelona, just for some... Man, they really got to add Magny Core and also Ricardo de Tormo to the game soon. That would help because those are two good tracks and really fit us very nicely. So that's 4. What else do I want? Problem is also I traditionally don't really like to vote for the long tracks because our 40-minute time period doesn't really lend itself to them. Wow. Monza was great racing. If we're going to repeat anything, I would like it to be that. And let's go with... I guess we'll go with Zandvoort for the last one, although it tends to be a stewarding nightmare. Anyways, those are my 6. And for vetoes, I don't like going to Paul Ricard. It's just too long. We were just at Suzuka, so I'm going to throw a veto on it. It's a good track for me, but no. And I just think Mount Panorama would be really, really disastrous with the 40-minute format. But if we go longer, I kind of would like it. All right. Am I planning on acquiring the North American or Asian content? Obviously, I'm going to grab it. It comes out. I prefer free start. Widget start is fine. Limiter start is kind of horrifying, but let's break this one down basically because I don't know. This tends to be a bit of a contentious thing. I'm just going to say my pieces here. The free start, in my opinion, is the best because it doesn't put anything in the hands of the AI as per penalties, which we have seen come up in the past. It's very rare, but it can come up. The extra work of reviewing the start is something that we do anyways, so it's not really a big deal. That'd be 2. And that's kind of about it. I guess those are the 2 pros. With the limiter start, you have the possible penalties, which could be a problem. And then with the that's with the widget start. With the limiter start, it just feels really, really unnatural. I don't really necessarily think that there's anything. Well, no, with the limiter and the widget start, there is the problem that recovering from a mistake can be a bit of a problem. Which weather do I want? I prefer dynamic weather. We didn't do it last season. I would kind of like to see success ballast just because every time someone comes out and absolutely just storms the championship and dominates the way that Andrew Warden did this season, the way Mike Stockmill has in the past, I do want some kind of recourse to try to create some battles at the front. So I would like to see that. The mandatory pit stop, I'm still of a no. This is a weird one because if we do vote for this, I do want a mandatory pit stop, but at 40 minutes, I actually really don't. And then if there is, I do prefer the pit stop window. I do prefer this option here of shortening qualifying to probably 15 minutes, adding that to the race, and then adding 5 minutes onto the end. However, if you can't do it, please answer this question because I'd like to know. I'm trying to reassess how late can we go, how early can we start? Is basically always the question with a weekday series. And then I have nothing to add to these, obviously, because I already have my thoughts, so I don't need to answer them. Yeah, that's it. So changes for next season that we are going to implement. There are 2 things that I'm going to make the executive's decision to change. The first is teams. I really like the limited team idea. This is where you have a certain number of points to fill out. If you want to have a team that can really compete, you have to take a bronze driver and so on. I think that on paper, it delivers driver development. It kind of forces people to get to know each other a little bit more, create camaraderie with more than like 1 or 2 other drivers. At the same time, I also don't think it's necessarily worked. So it's gonna be free teams this season, and we'll see what happens. If a super team forms, a super team forms, and maybe we got to go back to what we were doing before because that could dominate. But there was domination this season, anyways, so kind of painful in that regard. And then Number 2 is custom liveries. I like custom liveries on paper. I like the ability to have everyone express themselves, create their own thing, and go with it. Their own color scheme, their own whatever. It's very nice. Also, you can do the team names, which helps out with commentary. There's a lot of good stuff there. However, every time we approve custom liveries, there is the problem that lower end systems to even medium end systems have problems with them. They're not major problems because people mostly join during practice, but it can mess it up. It can mess it up in the race, even with the limited size that we have. So what I'm going to do is make the executive decision that we will allow custom liveries, but they have to do something. And what I mean by that is they have to either extend a car base that otherwise couldn't happen. So, for example, there are only 2 teams that run Lexus RCFs. This means there can only be 2 Lexus RCF teams without custom liveries. So if we have a third Lexus team that wants to run, that allows one of the teams to run custom liveries because that would extend the car pool. So we will allow that. Possibly we may allow that if there's a case of a 4-car team and there's only 1 car for them. Might look at that. The second part is if somebody actually does happen to have some kind of sponsorship deal, kind of like what I had with an energy drink company when I was fighting, and I would do custom liveries in racing games and include them sponsorship there as sort of a bonus deal. We'll allow that. And then the usual guidelines would be no political statements on the car, no porn, obviously, and no drugs, no alcohol. I would like to allow alcohol because I don't understand why it's not, but there is, if you look at the ACC and user license EULA or agreement, there is a clause that says that SRO does not allow for alcohol sponsorship on there. So there is that. And then no tobacco. So those 5 things. As long as you aren't in those 5 things, you're fine. I may make fun of your livery like I did with Silk Sheets last season because I still think it looked very weird. But those are editorial comments of myself and not the admin, as it were. I'm kind of 3 separate people when I run this series. I'm the admin, which is the no nonsense business version. There's Racer Mike, and then there's Commentary Mike, and they're much more opinionated and editorial. So we got that, and then I don't think I have anything else to touch on. Everything else is going to be more or less the same. Unless we end up with a lot more signups last year and a lot more attendance, then there may be some reserve stuff going on. So it is good to get set up to get signed up early. I'll be waiting for a fair amount of feedback on this form before opening up the signups. Obviously, if you fill out the form quickly, you'll be guaranteeing yourself a spot on the field, at the very least at the start. Obviously, the reserve protocol has always been if people aren't showing up, they can get demoted to reserve status because obviously we want people on the grid as often as possible. And then obviously people who acquire a boatload of penalties may also get forced into reserve status. But we've not really had to do much with the reserve status. No one was turned away last season, for example. I think we actually have to go back to the race room days when we actually had people turned away because the track size was a lot more limited in race room. There are tracks that have under 30 slots that you can actually apply, or at least at the time. And as a result, that would sometimes lead to people not being allowed to race. But it hasn't happened with ACC because ACC, we have the 50 grid spots without any issue. And I think last season we had, well, actually, we can look what we had last season. I want to say it was 54 signups. Could be wrong on that. It was 50 something. Events. There we are. Don't know why the logo didn't work in race app. I should really put a ticket in about that. Booking. 52. So we had 52. So we technically had 2 reserves at every point on the season, but we always had people signing out in 2 or more. So that wasn't really a problem. And a couple of people. There were more at one point because I know I removed my 2 teammates who signed out, Adam David Brosh and Josh Staffen, who had to leave the series. So there is that. Anyways, usual deals. We'll be doing GT3s again because we have a GT4 dedicated series on Mondays. So, like, we're the week GT3 series, they're the week GT4 series, and there's nothing else really to do with ACC. So, there's no debate on the car concept unless there's like a real push to do, like, I guess, an oldies series again, like was done on Sunday or something. Maybe. But I don't see that particularly happening. But feel free to give your feedback. Anyways, get filling out the form. We'll get rolling soon. Thinking probably starting up maybe beginning of December. And late November is a possibility if we get everything in place really quickly. But I think early December is probably more likely. So, looking forward to your feedback.